Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zarrell. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. And joining us once again is Zach Covemaker. How you doing, Zach?
Pretty good. How about you, man?
It's been a fun week, to say the least. But it's good to have you back on the show. You're back specifically for Wonder Woman. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. I sent Sean a drunk message at like 3 a.m. a few weeks ago. I was in.
Thankfully, it wasn't last night because it's 8 a.m. now, or 9 a.m. now.
I can read it back to you. It says like, "Well, dude, Wonder Woman. I gotta watch Wonder Woman and talk about it. I gotta talk about it."
In my defense, I was drinking vodka and playing Doom Eternal at 3 a.m. So that is where the blame goes.
I feel like my son's
I'm here.
My son's gonna grow up and be Zach.
It's great, man.
That's all he does is play video games.
Well, that's the best way to live. I spent my pandemic Christmas playing Yakuza 7.
Oh, he loves it. He is in heaven, and I can't fault him. You know, find your happiness, I guess.
Exactly, man.
Oh man. Visit us at ihatecritics.net, everyone's a critic podcast.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle is CriticsPod. You can also find us on YouTube, Spotify, Alexa, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, all your podcatchers. Subscribe to the show, rate and review the show. We'll read your reviews on the air if we see them. I need to do a better job of looking at YouTube and seeing comments there. We do stream live on YouTube for the time being on Sunday mornings. We're at between 8 and 9:30. We don't have a set schedule, but so if you're ever bored and you want to look, we're streaming live, and I'll always have podcast merch on. Here's the Batman versus Jesus shirt at TeePublic. If you go to ihatecritics.net and click on the TeePublic link up in the right-hand corner, you can get yourself some podcast merch. And then patreon.com/criticspod. The best way to help support the podcast. We're going to have a bonus podcast if I spit on your grave soon. We'll do that video. Maybe we'll just leave that on Patreon and not YouTube. At some point that will come out to the regular audience because the people behind that movie were nice enough to allow us to give us a very expensive copy of it. So we'll want to share that with everybody. But you'll get it first on Patreon. But without further ado, I guess we can start the show. And is there any news in the movie world that we haven't talked about this week? It has been Christmas, so.
Yeah, I've not noticed much other than a movie we're going to talk about later. Won the New York Film Critics Circle Best Picture, First Cow, which I think caught a few people off guard to see if that movie was going to last as long as it has into the contention for the big awards, and apparently it's got some juice still.
I can't wait to talk about that later for the simple reason of I tried to explain to my dad what it was, and it was just kind of when he described the plot. I can't wait for Sean to describe it to Zach. I'm assuming Zach hasn't seen it, but it's
not at all.
It is. It's way funnier to describe than the movie's actually really good, but we'll get to that later. Let's go ahead and start with Wonder Woman 84, streaming live on HBO Max as well as theaters around the country.
Wonder Woman 1984 is the sequel, of course, to 2017's Wonder Woman. It stars Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. She's living now in 1980s I don't know, New York, wherever it is. I think New York, obviously. Washington, D.C. That's it. She's working at the Smithsonian. She's working alongside Kristen Wiig, who's this character trope that is, way too pervasive. The nerd who doesn't have any friends, who's, going to get superpowers and become a jerk, which we've seen in how many movies? I think twice I think we've seen it twice in Batman movies before, at least.
In fairness, there's a million Batman movies.
Yeah. But she discovers this sort of, I don't know, ancient thing that allows you to, grant your wish, whatever your wish is. And when Wonder Woman touches it, she wishes to have Steve Trevor back. And when Wiig wishes wishes to be like Wonder Woman, so she gets powers. Then we find out that Steve Trevor is back in the strangest, most inexplicable way imaginable. He comes back in the body of somebody else, who I guess was one of her neighbors in her apartment building. Why? The movie never bothers to explain. We never learn why he came back in somebody else's body. He just came back in somebody else's body for some reason. She gets her wish, though, but in doing so, the wishes from this particular artifact are cursed. So you have to give something up to get what you want. So Wonder Woman starts to lose her powers a little bit. Kristen Wiig loses her basic human decency. And Pedro Pascal, who's the big bad guy in the movie, he actually becomes this wishing stone, like personally, like he takes it into himself. He wishes to become the stone, and so he can start granting wishes forever and begin to lose his basic and maybe even possibly eventually his son. This is a parable, from what Patty Jenkins said, this is a parable of climate change, how a reminiscent of how what you must give up in order to try and save the world, which is a big theme toward the end of the movie, which I didn't pick up on until I heard her say it. Because watching the movie, I didn't really pick up on that at all.
I didn't get that at all. I didn't know that at all.
I didn't pick up on it while watching the movie, but there's so many things that are off about this movie, just not quite clicking. Like the Steve Trevor thing is like a weird, unnecessary thing. The Kristen Wiig stuff, really, she's fine, but the weird outfit at the end, like the straight out of Cats, and then you got the just the whole trope of the nerd girl who becomes hot and becomes a jerk or a villain is badly overdone. And what was great about the first movie, Wonder Woman, was that it avoided tropes like that. It avoided simple-minded tropes like that and subverted things and was original in that way. And this one has a lot of problems with originality. That said, there's a number of really good things about this movie. Gal Gadot still is an amazing Wonder Woman. She's awesome in this movie, and I loved the whole dynamic between her and Chris Pine. And she has to make the decision late in the movie that if she's going to get her powers back and actually stop this whole global thing that's about to happen with Pedro Pascal seemingly almost bringing the world to an end. To stop that, she has to get her powers back, but that means giving up Steve Trevor. And I loved that. I thought that was very strong. How he gets there, though, is such a weird complication that I don't know why they included that. It really kind of boggles my mind. And with that, just a number of things just kind of hold this back from being a truly great movie to being a kind of okay movie.
Yeah. Zach, what did you think?
So I went into this really wanting to love it. Like, trust me, like I actually fully expected this to be my movie of the year because I love the first one. Gal Gadot is about like the only thing that DC had going for a while, but then Shazam happened. But I enjoyed it, but I wish it could have been a lot better. I think I feel like they could have done some cooler stuff with Pedro Pascal and like him playing Max Lord. And I get the whole he wants to wish for a million wishes thing. Like I get that whole aspect of it. It was fine. And for like a Wonder Woman lore standpoint, like it checked all the boxes. It was mystical. It was crazy. It made no fucking sense. It was fine, but I wish that they had done different stuff with it. I wish that they went with a different route with Cheetah. Like I agree with Sean on the whole cliche we've seen a million times. We've seen that too many times. Why couldn't they just do like the New 52 version where she's like an explorer that found like a cursed artifact? That would have been way cool. That could have been an awesome ass story, but hey, it's fine. The action sequences were tight. I wish that they explained her losing her powers a lot earlier than they did, because it kind of just happened. It just sort of like the way they displayed it, it just kind of was like, oh, by the way, you do have a side effect as well. Like you're losing your powers because your loved one's here. Like it just, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff there that I feel like it could have been better. I will watch it again. I enjoyed it. I had one hell of a time watching it with some of my friends at the movie theater a few days before it came out on HBO Max. I was pretty happy about all that. Like, it was a good experience. I just wish it could have been a great experience.
Yeah, to me, it's a superhero sequel. I mean, obviously the Avengers are their own thing because they're a universe that is working, and this is a universe that is in shambles. But if you look at other sequels, over that original Batman foursome, I'd take this over 2, 3, and 4. It's not Spider-Man 2, but it's better than Spider-Man 3. I like it better than the 2 Spider-Mans with Andrew Garfield. It's just kind of a superhero movie. It's just we're wanting, because Wonder Woman was so good, part of you wants it to be on par, and that's really hard to do with sequels, especially in a universe that's in shambles. One thing that bothered me, and it's the same thing that bothered me about Thor Ragnarok, is the inconsistencies between this and the series. In Batman versus Superman, she's like a recluse. They don't know who she is, and Batman doesn't know. Batman would be the one person who does know who she is, and she's hiding in 84, and they try to explain it, but it wouldn't have got past Batman, which to me is kind of silly.
Of a mall. Like she literally was like in the middle of a mall, not hiding herself, like winking at little kids and shit.
Right. And it's just like when Thor changed, characters midway through the series. And Thor Ragnarok's a ton of fun on its own. It just it didn't fit for me in the series. I guess the Avenger movies later on kind of made up for it. But I don't know. It was fun. It was fine. HBO Max I don't understand why I can't stream a whole movie beginning to end without it buffering. Like every other platform I have no issue with. HBO Max it never works right. So honestly, I had to pause this like 15 times and let it get caught up. And I know a lot of people were watching it on Christmas Day, but it was fine. I mean, Kristen Wiig she was good for what she was doing. It's just you already know kind of the way she acts on Saturday Night Live. So there's something that you're bringing with her there. And I wish they would have tried to have her play against type a little more, which I guess they do at the end. But early on, she's Kristen Wiig from Saturday Night Live, and that's not fair to her. I think she's better than that. And so I agree with you guys there, too. And then the weird way they transferred, it's not like she wished for him to come back. She didn't even know she was making a wish. Neither one of them do. They just kind of casually happened to wish for something when they touched the thing. But
why did he come back in somebody else's body?
I know you needed Robin Williams as Genie to explain it to us. that was missing.
Did you guys see Soul?
I love Soul. Soul's a great movie.
Soul kind of did the same exact thing with the cat. The cat ended up being okay, but at first, the whole time when Jamie Foxx's character got thrown into the cat, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, they just fucking Steve Trevor that poor cat, poor cat. And it's the same thing. I know this isn't going to register with you guys, but Cyberpunk 2077's doing the exact same thing with a Keanu Reeves ghost taking over your brain. So it's all this stuff happened in the same 2-week period. It's fucking weird. They all had the same idea at the same time.
Suddenly, Quantum Leap is the most influential work of art going today.
What the hell? Who thought that this was going to be their White House down? This is going to be the one trope that they repeat over and over and over again.
I didn't realize what was going on. My wife had to explain to me, he's in their body. I'm like, well, why? I don't get it.
Yeah, it was real strange.
There's got to be a cut scene or something that they cut out to explain why that happened. That has to be they cut a scene out to get that explain that. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. Kristen Wiig comes off as very flat early on. And the thing about it is I don't necessarily think she's a great actress. I've never seen her really embody anything other than that persona that we see from Saturday Night Live. And maybe that's us bringing Saturday Night Live to her performances. But truly, have you seen her do anything that demonstrates any kind of range?
What is that? I know there's a couple movies that I never saw, like The Skeletons, Twins or something like that. And there's some movie where she walks around naked in a casino. I've never seen that. Those that she got good reviews on. I don't know if she's good in them or not. But yeah, I'm assuming you've seen them. Is she?
I mean,
is it the same range?
she again, it's just the same kind of range, that same sort of awkward energy that she has at all times.
You're missing out on the golden goose here. That Lifetime movie she did with Will Ferrell a few years ago, man. That was the one where she really acted.
I thought at the end, I mean, obviously a lot of it was stunt doubles, but she did kind of, that was probably the most diverse she's ever been as an actress, is, you know, at the end during that fight scene and stuff, she definitely kind of came off as a badass a little bit. But you're right, early on it was just your typical Kristen Wiig, oh, let's mess her hair up a little bit and make this cute person ugly so that she'll be, you know, and it's not just superhero trope, it's in most teenage movies too. So, but again, it's just
she's wearing glasses. She's not attractive.
Good old bumbling Clark Kent over there.
Yeah. But again, it's just a superhero sequel, so it still works on some level. So I'll give it that.
Oh yeah, and like I don't want anyone out there to think like negatively about this movie, because it's still an enjoyable time. It's Iron Man 2. Like it's when they said that they were going for an 80s movie, they made an 80s sequel. Like it was passable. It wasn't terrible. Like it was basically like kind of fit that like weird 80s action movie vibe. Like how quickly things go to shit. Like it just happens like literally like in a scene change. It's fun. Like it's a dumb popcorn movie.
It is. I thought though I got excited for a minute during this movie where I thought it was going to take a turn and get really interesting. There's a moment, I don't know, just after the halfway point, where Pedro Pascal is about to go start the final thing. His son takes his hand and wishes for him to be good. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And then Kristen Wiig can be the big bad at the end, and he can be like, suddenly he's a good guy trying to put all this to an end. That's interesting. That could have been an interesting change going forward. And then he gets on the plane and he's still evil. And I'm like, oh, never mind then. I guess the kid doesn't get to make a wish.
Yeah, and not only is it a missed opportunity, now you have a plot hole. You know, that's really the problem with that scene is, well, why didn't his wish come true? And then he wishes again. And then when everybody's wishing at the end, he makes a wish again and nothing happens. That's for sort of reason this kid does not have wishes.
Kristen Wiig gets 2 of them, but his son doesn't get 1. That's so fucking dumb.
And then
Kristen Wiig, she didn't have any side, like, to my knowledge, I didn't see a single side effect until she made that second fucking wish. She was fine. Like, she was fine.
She didn't so much make a wish as he just sort of somehow was giving. He took things from people, which again is also not very well explained. His ability to take things from people when they make a wish, which I guess that's what the stone does. So I guess that's what he gets to do. So somebody makes a wish and he gets to take their power. So did the cheetah make a wish then? he took their fur? Like,
really,
what is that about?
The thing, so he helped her out. I don't know.
Well, and it was like he gave her a second wish, but he couldn't give anybody else a second wish, because that does pop up earlier in the movie too, where people try to make 2 wishes. It's, oh, you already made a wish. Never mind. And
he was like, I'm being generous.
Yeah, and it's just too easy. I mean, and I guess I like what the idea of them renouncing their wish. I do like that, but it also comes off as easy. It's not for Wonder Woman, but it's, later on, I mean, I don't know. To me, it was a little clunky. I do like the Wonder Woman part of it, but there was, I don't know. You just, the whole time you're like, well, something's going to happen between him and his kid, and that's how this ends. And that's how it ends. So, but again, to me, it's a middle of the road superhero movie, though. It's not bad.
Not bad.
I'd even, it's just sometimes there've been some really good ones. Dark Knight, Black Panther, Wonder Woman. And this is, in the middle of the road.
Justice League.
Yeah, it's better than Justice League. But that professional wrestling entrance she has in Batman vs. Superman, that was pretty awesome. Where they play her music.
That is awesome.
I still mark out of that. Like, I hate on that movie a lot, but Wonder Woman is so fucking cool. The Amazon music, which she's just like, I love that shit, man.
Yeah, that is good stuff.
All right. Anything else on Wonder Woman 84 before we move on? All right, let's move on. The Midnight Sky.
Midnight Sky stars George Clooney, along with directing by George Clooney. And the story goes that the world is coming to an end. There's a global pandemic, oddly enough, and George Clooney is the last man in the last place on Earth, essentially, that is surviving. He's a scientist who's staying at a base in the bottom of the world. And Antarctica, and everybody else is going back to the U.S., even though they know that if they do, they're going to get sick. That's just or they're going to try and dig into the ground and try and, whatever. They're going to try and survive, but it's unlikely at this point based on how this thing is spreading. And it'll get to Antarctica eventually. So Clooney decides to live out his last days by himself in Antarctica. And as he's doing so, he comes to find that there's still one more space flight out there. Is it Daisy Ridley?
I don't know.
I can't remember. And one of the she, along with David Oyelowo and Kyle Chandler, Damian Bashir, they're on this ship that is returning from a place that could have been the next Earth. They were out there searching for another Earth because we always do that in these movies. Apparently, we're always out there looking for another place to live after we've destroyed this one. So he's got to figure out a way to warn them not to come back to Earth, to turn around and go back to this planet that they found that they feel is inhabitable. And to do that, he's got to make a long trek across the snow to another outpost, and it's a very dangerous trip. And he's going to make that trip while also having a little girl with him. A little girl has gotten lost from the people who are leaving, and he's got to take this little girl with him now on this very dangerous trip. And it's very exciting. I really like this a lot. I really like what's at play here. I like the setup here with Clooney being a guy who's already dying. And he's in the middle of a pandemic, this pandemic that's killing everybody. He's already a guy who's dying, who has nothing to lose, who finds a little bit of hope at the end. And this is one of the rare dystopian end of humanity movies that it does have a little bit of a hopefulness to it. And I really appreciate that, because so many of these movies are just about how awful humanity is and how ugly we all are, and how we're going to destroy each other in the worst moments And I appreciate a movie that doesn't go that direction. This movie is about hope. It's about trying to find some way for humanity to survive. And I really appreciate that. I like the action sequences. I like this, especially the stuff in Antarctica where they're out in out in this blinding snowstorm that is just an incredible scene. And a lot of people have complained about the ending of this movie. About there's a secret about the little girl that comes to pass that is a pretty big coincidence, I guess. But I didn't mind that. I really didn't. I thought everything up to that is so good. I didn't care about how they kind of cheesed the ending a little bit. But I really like this movie a lot.
Did you see it, Zach?
I didn't. I hadn't even heard about this. I've been so out of the loop this past year. Yeah,
in a lot of ways, it's like Interstellar meets Gravity.
Okay.
With something else. There's another, I can't think what the other movie would be, but it's, I agree with Sean. I think we as viewers tend to, I'm going back to the ending, tend to make the ending the most important part of a movie. And so we're expecting it to be a big thing when it could just be a subtle coincidence, and we're making it bigger as viewers. I thought it worked, though. I don't like it as much as Sean does, but I do like it. I think Clooney's just slightly, he's a little clunkier than like Ben Affleck or some other directors that are actors. It's just, I don't know. There's something about the pacing that's just not perfect. It's good, but it's just not quite like it took me 2 viewings to get through this. Mildly boring but not just barely, there's just something I can't really explain what it is. And most of his movies I've kind of felt that way. I can't really think of anything where he's just been, perfect in, but it's still a very good movie. It's very neat, very good idea. And to your idea of, not having humanity destroy itself, that's the thing about people is they're either I think all of us have the good and the bad in it. And you're right. There's so many movies that focus on the bad. This does focus on the good. And with that, there is hope at the end, and that's kind of cool. But at the same time, there is a little bit of that Hollywood elite liberal thing with this movie that you can't escape. I just happen to be a liberal, so it doesn't bother me that much. But I don't know. It's worth watching, if nothing else.
I think this is Clooney's second best bit of direction after Good Night and Good Luck. I think this is probably the best thing he's done since Good Night and Good Luck.
I could probably agree with that. But I guess that, in my opinion, proves my point. But again, it's not bad. It's just not, I don't know. There's just something away from making it, like almost a masterpiece instead of just very, very good, if that makes sense. And maybe I'm wanting more out of it than I should. But anything else on Midnight Sky? It is on Netflix if you want to watch it.
Okay, yeah, that was actually going to be my question, how to find it. But
yep.
I might check that out.
Yeah,
I got another 4-day weekend coming up. I might have some free time.
I have to go to work after this. All right, let's move on. News of the World or Postman 2.
Oh, boo! Hey, boo to that.
I'm just reading the way the movie is. It kind of sounds like that, so maybe I'm wrong. And Paul Greengrass is directing it, so I don't know. You tell me.
News of the World stars Tom Hanks as a former Confederate Army colonel who is now living in Texas and is delivering the news of the world. He used to own a printing press, and he's got access to newspapers from around the world through his connections. And after his printing press goes under, he just takes the newspapers that he gets and takes them around Texas, and people pay him a dime to read the news in a large group setting. And he's very charismatic, a wonderful storyteller. And so people are willing to drop a dime and listen to him just tell them the news and what's happening. And in a time when a lot of people can't read and can't have access to newspapers, he's essentially like a radio host. Just he happens to go from town to town and do it in person. One time when he's on his way to his next town, he takes a back country road and finds a overturned whatever they're called. Anyway, he finds this. He comes across a hanging. A black man has been hung, and whoever was with him has taken off into the forest. And it turns out it's this young German girl who had been who was being taken back to her family in southern Texas after having spent the last 6 years being taken care of by Native Americans. She'd been her parents had been slaughtered by the Kiowa tribe, and she'd been taken and been raised by the Indians for the past 6 years. So she speaks native language. She speaks German. They really don't have much way of communicating though. It falls eventually to Hanks's character to take her the rest of this way on this journey to southern Texas, about a 400-mile journey, which at the time is a huge distance in this time on horseback. Along the way, he's confronted by people who want to just buy this little girl from him or steal this little girl from him, and he's got to fight them off. And there's various other things that take place, and along the way, of course, they bond. And this is a wonderful film. It really is. Paul Greengrass has kind of toned down his usual style of quick cuts and flashy stuff that he did with the Bourne movies, and he's more measured here and mature, and he really is willing to let Tom Hanks do his Tom Hanks thing, which is kind of hold court and be charismatic and be interesting. And this is a Western with action elements, and obviously some people are going to have a hard time, like Tom Hanks is an action star, but he's not playing a typical action star. It's a lot like just a good guy, a good person who happens to be good with a gun. And he's not doing anything big or flashy. He's just doing just enough. Uses his wits, and he's clever, and the big action set pieces that take place are exciting because it's not because he's the toughest guy it's because he's clever, he's smart, and He knows what to do when things get rough. And I appreciated that about his performance. And his chemistry with this young girl, Laura Zengel, I think her name is wonderful. Even as they can't really communicate, it's really fantastic. And the scenes where he's reading the news, he is super charismatic and really a great storyteller. And I really like this movie a lot.
And in fairness, I did not read the whole synopsis. I just started with Tom Hanks reads the news to people, and I'm like, oh, he delivers the mail. I didn't know it wasn't post-apocalyptic. I didn't know anything other than that, and I'm like, this just sounds like a good joke to make. So I was ready for it for about a week. But it's in the theaters, correct?
Yeah, it's only in theaters right now.
Yeah. That's cool. I'm glad it was good. Anything else on News of the World before we move on? Will it be around for the Oscars?
I would think so. Yeah, I can see Hanks getting nominated for this. He's that good.
Well, and he's the Meryl Streep of males.
Oh, so you guys hate him too? Or is that just Sean?
We just pretend to hate Meryl Streep.
Sean hates Meryl Streep. I know about this.
Wait, you missed Meryl Streep week just to.
Yeah, he did not like Sophie's Choice that
I guess they did.
Just kidding. No, I they just get nominated a lot more than anything. All right, Promising Young Woman.
Promising Young Woman stars Carey Mulligan, directed and written by Emerald Fennell. In her, I believe this is her feature debut. And stars Carey Mulligan as Cassie, a young woman who has a very unusual obsession. She likes to go to bars on the weekend, pretend to be very, very drunk, and get picked up by supposed nice guys who are going to give her a ride home. Naturally, of course, they end up taking her back to their place, and then they try to have sex with her, thinking that she's unconscious or about to be unconscious. And then she sits up, shows that she's not drunk, that she is perfectly aware of what's happening, and she just humiliates the fools, which is it is quite deservedly so. She just goes home, marks off another one in her book, and moves on to the next one. And she does this a lot. She's been doing this for a while. And along the way, you're going to learn her motivation for doing this is related to her friend Nina, who was dead, who took her own life after she was sexually assaulted in college, and nobody did anything about it. She was completely unconscious and was taken advantage of. And then after no one was willing to do anything about it, she dropped out of school and then eventually took her own life. And that's what led Cassie to be who she is, where she's 30 years old, working in a coffee shop, living with her parents, and doing this every weekend. Things kind of take a turn when she meets a character, Dr. Ryan, played by Bo Burnham, who's really great in this. He's a former med school cohort of hers who sees her in the coffee shop and just has to know what happened. Why aren't you a doctor? They begin a romance, but it starts off rocky because on their first date, he asks her to go back to his house, and she immediately suspects that you're just like everybody else. And he has to fight through that and try and get her back, and he does. And then there's this wonderful romantic period of the movie that's really terrific, but it's not a romance. This is not a romantic movie. This is not some romantic comedy where a manic pixie dream girl learns a valuable lesson that not all men are bad. This is a different sort of movie. It's a very dark movie. It's got a very dark ending that has divided a lot of people, rightly so. I watched it twice. I watched it 3 weeks ago with plans on releasing my review 2 weeks ahead of the release, and I couldn't do it because I just kept thinking about the movie, and I couldn't write. I was so taken with the movie, I couldn't figure out what I wanted to write about it. So I watched it again, and I had a different reaction to the ending. I found the ending more appropriate, I guess, the second time around, and I found the movie to be just as exciting, funny, dark, witty, stylish, and in the end, it's about society. It's about our complicit nature. It's about those who are willing to let bad things continue to happen in the world just because it didn't happen to them or someone they care about. That's really what this movie is about. And it's about putting that idea on trial. The notion that, the really horrible thing didn't happen to me, so I'm just going to go on with my life like nothing's wrong. And that's really what this movie is about. It's about putting that idea on trial and, the meaning behind that, and just trying to draw people out of the notion of just witnessing and doing nothing.
Yeah, that sounds. I'm looking forward to seeing this. Anytime a movie can really divide audiences, I think that's a good thing. That usually means it's worth, it served its purpose. And it sounds like it has a lot of interesting ideas, so I'm very curious about it now. So this is also in the theaters, correct?
Yeah. Initially, I really got hung up on what it was that she was doing with these men, because I know when we watched the trailer like a year ago, we were kind of wondering, like, she must lure these guys back and kill them. Like,
right.
We thought it was like a serial killer movie, and it's not. She's addicted to humiliating these guys. That's her addiction. That's what she's obsessed with, is humiliating men who think that they're the nice guy. And I appreciated that. I thought that's a very different way to go about this, and I really liked that.
Yeah, and the idea of putting that on trial, or the complicit nature of humanity on trial, is that's a very good discussion. It's something I've always struggled with too, is like, at what point am I being annoying? At what point am I being complicit? You don't want to be that person yelling on Twitter the whole time, but at the same time, you don't want to be putting up with it. So it's like finding that happy medium. So I don't know. I'm very curious about this movie, and I can't wait to get a chance to see it, because I'm curious what my opinion will be of it.
Yeah, honestly, it sounds super interesting. This wasn't a thing on my radar. I think I watched the trailer a while ago, because I vaguely remember it. But man, it sounds awesome. I'm in.
Okay, you may have been on the show the week we talked about the trailer, back when we used to talk about trailers.
Yeah, back when we used to be in the same room.
All right. Anything else on Promising Young Woman? All right, Sean, explain this to Zach.
Okay, hold on. By the poster alone, I'm fucking in. How do I buy this movie?
Before he goes, there is. You guys have seen the South Park episode when Sundance can't be in Sundance anymore and has to go to South Park, and they're just kind of like, it's gay cowboys eating pudding. This is kind of that movie. I mean, it's not there's no pudding and cowboys in this, but it's that kind of movie that they would be describing. But go ahead, Sean.
This is. I'm getting. I don't know anything about this, but I'm getting Dick Long vibes, and I'm in.
No, not at all.
I'm in.
No, nothing like that.
First Cow comes from director Kelly Reichardt, and I can't remember the names of the stars. I apologize, but the lead character is Cookie, who's a cook for a group of traders in the Old West, or in the Northwest, and they arrive at this fort, and for the first time ever, there's a cow arriving in this area for the first time. Toby Jones is the owner, essentially, of everything. He runs the whole town, and he's brought in this cow so he can have milk for his coffee or his tea or whatever. And
do.
And Cookie meets up with a guy he met earlier in the movie who actually saved the life of a guy by the name of King Lee. And the two of them begin this friendship that becomes this sort of business partnership when they see that the cow is grazing near their cabin, and they decide to sneak over and milk it in the middle of the night. And they begin to make these I guess what are essentially donuts, and they're selling them in the camp. And eventually, of course, they're going to get found out, but how they get found out and what happens next is really kind of the surface area story. The underlying story here is a story of intimate male friendship about two men who are willing to risk their lives together and share a life together, live together, spend all their time together, talk together, and reveal themselves to each other, and really care about each other. And that's really the story. The cow is kind of secondary.
Right.
It's representative, I guess. The description of this that stuck with me on Twitter was this is what happens when the proletariat try to take control of commerce and are shot down by the big corporation. And that's kind of like, that's kind of the story here,
Yeah.
I really loved this. I thought it was fantastic. Kelly Reichardt's a terrific director, and it's so beautifully intimate and unique and singular. And the way it plays out is sad, but also just kind of inspiring in the way that these two people mean so much to each other. And it's about how it's about just two men being friends for the most part.
Right.
And I think that's really something that doesn't get explored beyond a surface level in movies. And it also, just the unwillingness of men to be vulnerable around other men. And I know people, of course, because everybody goes to the whole thing, they must be a couple or they must be in a relationship. This is a whole gay thing. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't, but
it doesn't matter.
Right. It doesn't matter. The point is about we don't see often just this type of story told. And I think that's really very appealing, a very appealing aspect of First Cow.
And when I was saying gay cowboys eating pudding, I was just quoting the joke from South Park. This has nothing. That was not what I was implying here. It's just when you're talking about this movie, especially your dad who likes movies like Die Hard, and that's like his favorite type of movie, you can't really say it's about two male friendships because then you're done talking about it. So you start to explain the plot. These two male friends are stealing milk from a cow at night. Then the owner chases them down later on, and it's fantastic. It's really weird explaining it that way because that's really what this movie is. But it's really quite good. The score is amazing. The performances are great. It's going to happen. I mean, I knew right away from the second this movie started. Not the second, but as soon as the two characters were introduced, because of an opening scene. Right, yeah, the opening scene explains to you what's going to happen to them. But it's really, really good and really, really watchable. Even I didn't watch it with my wife, but I could imagine my wife sitting through it. She never would want to on her own, but if she accidentally started watching it, she would enjoy it. It's that kind of a movie. But it's just fun to explain because it's more so than any movie really since we've ever talked about in this podcast. It's such a lame description of two guys stealing milk from a cow and being chased by the owner is kind of the plot of the movie. But it's really
I got a little sad. I'm still gonna check this out. I mean, it's on sale on Vudu. I'm thinking of dropping the 10 on it and checking it out. But I'm really sad that this was not a movie about a man who gets elected president and he's married to a cow, because that's where my break went. That's what I thought this was about. It's election year. January 20th, the first cow comes to office. That's all I was thinking when I saw this poster. I was in. I was down. Need to make movies. But no, I am seriously thinking, because it's on sale on Vudu right now for $10. So I think I might pull the trigger.
I highly recommend that.
And I have Showtime, and it was free on that, so I don't know.
Maybe I'll do a free trial.
But yeah, First Cow. It's actually very, very good. One of the best movies of the year for sure.
Damn.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event for the linear, legitimate, and universally recognized, undisputed classic.
For the third time, The Godfather is a classic, and for the second time, The Godfather Part 2 is a classic. This was fun. I enjoyed watching The Godfather series, but you go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I watched all four actually in a day.
I can't imagine watching 3 and the redo.
I had to do it. Oh yeah, no breaks. I had
do
a
1
day
and 2
off
for sure.
I had a day off, so I went for it. The Godfather, of course, 1972. And of course, the story of the Corleone family is the opening, story of the Corleone family is just remarkable for how incredibly watchable it is, and how this cast is such a standout. This is such an example of acting. Every person in this movie stands out. Like just their face or their manner, the way that they look, they just grab you. Like, you talk about Clemenza, or you talk about Tessio.
Tessio, yeah.
Just these seemingly minor characters, but both of them stand out. They're in your head. You say those names, those faces come to mind. They're both charismatic. They're both unique and interesting. And that's what you're going to talk about. When we talk about Godfather 3 is completely lacking in that aspect of it. Is really what's wrong is there's no Clemenza. There's no Tessio. Even, the Brett Fredo. Again, another great actor who just stands out, who's just radiating energy. You've got in the first one, of course, Jimmy Caan is just magnetic. The energy, the life, the excitement. You can feel his anger, just this vibrating nerve that he is. It's really just phenomenal. And then his energy opposite Pacino's energy, that relaxed, calm, feeling the anger, but keeping his cards close to the vest. And then really he just settles into being Michael Corleone so quickly and so well. That scene in the restaurant is so brilliant, and the way Pacino plays it, the dynamic of him and this police captain and the other bad guy, just sitting there having that conversation. There's so much tension, and then when he comes back and he's ready to shoot, he sits down first, which I always forget. I always forget that he sits down first and starts to eat his meal, and then stands up and fires. And then as he's walking out, that little hand gesture to drop the gun is just such an actorly touch. It's so beautiful. I love that. And everything about this just works. I mean, Brando, he could be hamming it up here, but he's not. You can sense that there's that aspect of Brando that wants to be big and broad, but he's holding it back a great deal. And I think also that Coppola does a good job of hiding Brando's tics, the things that he does that are big and broad. He kind of puts those off to the side just a little bit by having him sidelined early on in the movie. What can you say? What else can you say about The Godfather?
Yeah, I mean, it's an epic, in the true word of the word epic, the most overused word in a long time. But this one really does nail that type of movie down. Like you mentioned, the whole ensemble cast from the first 2 movies. Other movies have had ensemble casts and been great, but this is just something else. It's whenever you're putting together, I think I said this before, when you're doing your best movies of all time lists, like this one just kind of, the further you get away from it, the further that falls down the list, because it's like, I don't know, I want to spend 3 hours watching a movie, but then you watch it and it's just like, it's really not hard to watch 1 and 2 back to back. You're looking at 6 hours, but it's 6.5 hours, I think, maybe even longer. But they're so good and so watchable, and every scene is legendary. There's even lines in the third one are have gone on to be classics, but there's like not an ounce of wasted time in these movies, and they're long movies. From all the 5 family meetings, and I'll just go ahead and move to this one too. All the big meetings with people, the courtroom scenes. It's just all, even The Dark Knight, and I don't remember which Godfather it was because I did watch them close together too, where Michael's on trial and then they bring in the witness. You know, The Dark Knight totally ripped that scene off, and I'd never even picked that up until watching it the other day. It's just, it's so watchable and so good. It's like the combination of like a pop movie and an art movie combined into one, you know, as perfect as it gets. You know, there's other movies that have been close, but these are really the true masterpieces of, you know, that type of movie.
And I think if you're going to make the comparison, if you're forced to make the comparison, Godfather Part 2 is better. It's the better movie. It is a near perfect film. Like, it is, I can't find anything wrong with this movie. The interplay of the past and the present is just perfect. De Niro's performance is perfect. Pacino has moved into this role so beautifully, and that ending with the death of Fredo is just wow. Just yeah, it's so powerful and so amazing, so amazing to watch.
And you were talking about the Sonny and Michael dynamic, but you throw in Connie and Fredo too. All four of them combined are, granted, Connie really plays more of a role in the third one, but she's a prominent part of both two movies. But the interplay between the siblings is just so good. And Fredo is, that guy's name, I keep wanting to say the director that has a name that sounds similar to his, but I can't think of his name offhand. The guy who plays Fredo.
Yeah.
But I don't know that he made a bad movie. He was like in 6 great movies back to back to back, and then sadly passed away. But he is so important in this movie, playing that pathetic, you know, kind of high-strung character that the oldest on top. Was he the oldest or is he the middle? I can't remember.
I think Michael's the youngest. He's right above Michael.
Right.
And Sonny's the oldest, then Fredo, then Michael.
And Connie's somewhere there. But it's just so, his performance is so amazing. And that scene where he tells me knows what he did. You know, I know it was you, Fredo. That again, it's a movie of nonstop iconic scenes. Like, whether intentionally or unintentionally, somehow that just doesn't happen. And quite frankly, if you were to cut these two movies together into one long cut, that's really what it should be. I've seen it before.
Yeah, he did that in the 70s.
Yeah, and they used to play it every Thanksgiving on like A&E or something like that.
And again, you know, you have, once again, with the casting of the 1920s era, you've got obviously De Niro playing the Brando character, but you've also got Bruno Kirby playing Clemenza, which I thought that was really good casting. Again, another very charismatic face, a guy who's just, you recognize immediately. The same, I can't remember the guy who was playing Tessio, but he too has a sort of a standout appearance. And I can't say enough about the way he cast those background roles. He's brilliant. It's just brilliant. And even in the more modern era, as Michael's picking people to be around him, you know, you've got Duvall obviously there through the first 2 movies, and Duvall's fantastic as Tom Hagen. He's kind of the least appreciated part of both these 2 movies. His steadiness, his loyalty, his presence is so vital. So much so that he wanted to get paid a little bit more for the third one, and part of the problem. They really should have paid him. Still bringing in, yeah. But anyway, let's go ahead and 30 years ago, Godfather 3 came out, but they also, like a couple weeks ago, Francis Ford Coppola re-edited it as Godfather the Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. So go ahead and whatever order you want to do this in, Sean. All right. Well, I watched the original Godfather Part 3, which is, the differences are, it's a bit of a re-editing. There's like 5 minutes that have been cut from the movie, so it's just a little bit shorter. And it's been rearranged, right? It's been rearranged. So there's a scene where Michael is meeting with the Archbishop, and he's talking about the immobiliare deal, and you move that scene to the first thing you see. So they create that. So they use that scene to create the parallel between Godfather Part 3 and Godfather Part 1, where the Godfather is receiving people at the wedding. Here, Michael's gone to the Archbishop, and the Archbishop is there to ask him for something. Even and so there's that aspect of it is that creates that relationship between those two scenes, and it's a smart play because really that whole opening of Part 3 is completely unnecessary. The whole thing where Michael gets the honor from the Catholic Church and they show the lake house in Lake Tahoe that's not being used anymore and empty and just filled with memories and flashbacks and so on. They cut that completely. That's gone. And they move this scene up, which helps. It does help. But at the same time, there are just so many other problems with Godfather Part 3 that even a re-edit can only do so much to fix. The main issues are just this rushed plot of this whole, you've got the Vatican, you've got the Vatican Bank, you've got Immobiliare, you've got all this going on. We're more interested in the dynamic between, Garcia and Michael Corleone. That's the more interesting dynamic there. Him dealing with their relationship between Garcia and his daughter. You've got Talia Shire's character, who's becoming more powerful and influential in the family. Those are interesting things. This whole Vatican deal is utter nonsense because you've got a player like George Hamilton in there replacing Duvall in the Duvall role, and he's just awful. He's just a non-presence. He's just flat and just not interesting. And that's the thing that throughout, like, you're looking for those side characters, like you're looking for a Clemenza or a Tessio, and the side characters that they choose here aren't nearly as interesting as the side characters in the first two movies. Sofia Coppola, I mean, you got to deal with it at some point. She's not an actress, and I don't think anybody helped her. I don't think anybody gave her any tips. She doesn't embody this character. She never becomes, this character. She's very flat and affectless, and I don't blame her. I'm not saying she's a terrible person. She ruined the movie or anything like that. That's nonsense. There's a couple of scenes like with her and Andy Garcia where she does seem to kind of come to life a little bit more and be more invested in the scene. But I think when she's talking to Pacino, I think she's completely intimidated, and I just think she's just sort of flat and doesn't really know. She's not really getting anything from him, and I think that's a big issue. It does bring the movie down a little bit, but the coda does cut her role down. Like, they cut a bunch of her dialogue from there. But also you have to remember she's kind of the heart of the movie, so you can't cut too much of her because if you do, you're going to lose some of the plot.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The whole thing about, first of all, the first rushed aspect is that Michael asks Andy Garcia's character to go and befriend this guy, Altobello, who's another, again, underformed character played by Eli Wallach. He's been there, I guess, throughout, but he's not very intimidating. He's not a very big presence. He's a glad-handing presence, and you kind of want a guy with a little bit more presence. Like Mantegna gets kicked out of the movie maybe too quickly. Like, I think he's more interesting, but he's the one pulling all the strings, and so he asks Garcia to get close to him and find out what's going on, and then Garcia gets taken in by him and to meet this other guy, Lucchese, who's behind the whole Vatican Bank deal, and suddenly he's just there. Like, there's no build up. There's no couple of scenes where he's building his relationship with Altobello to get to Lucchese. Suddenly Lucchese is just there on their first meeting and inviting this guy in and trusting him immediately. And there's no build up. There's no tension. There's no nothing to that. And then he goes back to Michael and says, here's what's going on. And really it's everything we already knew. Like he didn't get really any information that was helpful in any way. And then, of course, him becoming the Don, you're making Andy Garcia's character the head of the Corleone family, happens just like that. Like we don't see any real trials that he goes through. We don't see him have to really work hard to get there. He's just boom. I don't want to do it. You do it. Like there should be much more meaningful aspect to this. This is a big deal. He doesn't feel like he's earned that.
Yeah. I think this is Jesus Christ. I'm going to take a drink real quick. Sorry.
We're here for you.
I got shit in my throat. I think it's a very good movie. The problem is the movies before it are some of the best movies ever made. It's interesting the way you worded it, because like the whole the Pope stuff, the Vatican stuff, he actually does a very good job of shooting that, and that's when the movie starts to feel epic, but you don't care about it. And then the parts that you do care about, it's way smaller. They're in a little tiny kitchen. Andy Garcia is almost distracting. He's good in the role, but it's not iconic like James Caan or Robert Duvall or whatever. It's more 80s or 90s Andy Garcia in the role. And you throw in great actors like Bridget Fonda and whatever, but it's distracting because now you have all these celebrities that want to be in this movie. Even George Hamilton, specifically George Hamilton is really a problem because what he went on to do after this, those infomercials and whatever talk shows he hosted, really make it hard for someone our age to go back and watch this and take him seriously. But there's elements of it that are great in there, but it's just not well put together. And the fact that it's rushed is sad. And yeah, they redo it and call it code, put code at the end of it to try to lower the bar a bit. And it does work. And I think it's one of the better movies of 1990. The problem is 1990 is a really bad year.
Yeah, it's awful. It's god awful.
Well, there was one glimmer of hope in that. And that
Shut up.
Greatest movie of our generation.
To me, it's clearly before this went into production, stuff started falling apart. Then you got to pause and say, let's regroup and make this movie when we're ready. You can't get Robert Duvall. Winona Ryder has to drop out because she wants to do Edward Scissorhands instead. Wait till you can get what you want and then make the movie. And I think it works better. At the same time, there's elements of this that are great. That scene, Sean ended up calling it one of the worst acting I've ever seen in the text. But right before that, just when I think I'm getting out there, pull me back in. That's an iconic line. It just happens to be in a little dingy kitchen, which, in the other Godfathers, it'd be in this epic ballroom or something like that. And that's kind of the whole point of what's wrong with this movie is the good stuff is really small and rushed, and the bad stuff is epic and filmed well, but you don't care about it.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed watching both the original Godfather 3 and then this one was that it's very, very meme worthy, and that's really kind of a problem because there are moments of this that you could lift out and put into a meme very easily, and that always seems to be more of a hallmark of a bad movie than a good movie to me. Like there's a scene like the whole heart attack scene, or diabetic attack, whatever it is, scene. It's overplayed, just desperately overplayed. It's some of Pacino's the first elements of Pacino just going for it and just over the top and just losing his fucking mind. And you could pull that out for a GIF very easily and use that in a number of different ways.
Well, that's the thing. Not that scene in particular, but there are dozens and dozens of memes that do come from this trilogy. Like that's one thing I'm a little nervous about going back and watching it because there's a lot of Marlon Brando memes out there, man.
There are.
Oh yeah, God, I can't remember the actual line, so I'll be paraphrasing. But it's like, look what they did to my boy, like that. Holy fuck, man. I could literally, I could pull up dozens right now. Literally anytime any series fucks up, they Photoshop in Brando for that. It's just, I'm a little afraid. I love The Godfather.
Yeah, the good thing for me is that you get lost in the movie and you kind of lose, at least in the first two. You definitely would get pulled out in this one. And there's just, I mean, I know these guys in the first, Brando obviously was a huge star coming into The Godfather, but everybody else, they had been in movies other than Pacino, but they were still kind of up and comers. And The Godfather and Godfather Part 2 were really star-making performances for everybody in these movies. What you needed here is, instead of Andy Garcia and instead of Bridget Fonda and George Hamilton, you needed unknowns that you could make stars. And I think, and again, Andy Garcia is fine in it, but he's been in a lot of these 80 movies where he's kind of a hothead cop or detective or whatever, or bad guy, whatever he was. It's almost distracting for me. Even more so than Sofia Coppola. Sofia Coppola definitely is a problem, but to me that was just like a Band-Aid they tried to put on the movie that obviously didn't keep. To me, the casting was just really the problem with the characters that you care about. And if you had kind of gotten some people that to make it feel, I don't know, there's just so much that was rushed is the right word. They rushed to make this movie.
Side characters.
Go ahead.
You need side characters that pop. They regardless of who they are, they pop. And Garcia has that, but he's also kind of
right.
kind of distracting. Why Bridget Fonda was used for this movie, who knows?
Probably because she wanted to be in it. I mean, Eddie Murphy tried to be in it. I mean, everybody wanted to be in this movie because it was a Godfather movie.
Yeah. Weird choices. But as you point out, though, there are good things about this. I think there's a scene where Michael confesses to a priest at the Vatican, and I thought that scene is really, really good. The guy that they hired to play the priest there is really fantastic in the way he draws Michael out of himself in a way that nobody has before. And I thought that's the one element that really worked because they want to use the religious aspect to really draw out these characters and what religion means to them. And it's a little too muted until that scene where you really see kind of Michael's, desire to be religious at the same time knowing who he is and understanding his own nature. That's really the one scene that really gets that. I really appreciate that. I think Talia Shire is amazing in this movie. I love the way they developed that character. I thought it was actually a really natural progression. Some people said that was a rushed element, but I thought that was kind of beginning at the end of Godfather 2, where she said she wanted to come home. And Michael allowed her to, come home. And I think we're talking, however many years later, this is who she would be if she was in that world that entire time. This is the natural evolution of that character. She was always this person. She was always this, wanting to figure out ways for the family to use their power. I think she demonstrated that in each of the first two movies in minor ways. And here it's in full bore. And I thought that was great. I thought she was amazing in this movie. And so there are really good things about this. Just the plot doesn't work. You don't have a good enough plot here. It's not as, tragic as it needs to be. It wants to be this big tragedy at the end, and it kind of works. The opera scene, works. It has effective elements, but like the two twins that they hired to be his security guards are incredibly bland, and you don't care what happens to them. The guys who Garcia chooses to be around him, they don't pop. There's nothing interesting about them. And so you're lacking that full breadth of casting that would really make it more interesting. You don't have like I said, a Tessio or a Clemenza in there, who's going to take over once he leaves. None of these guys, that's for sure. So that's lacking there, but also just the rush nature of that whole Immobiliare plot, which we never really get an ending to. It's just all very rushed and just you're trying to set up this big, tragic ending, and it's tragic, but not tragic enough. Like you haven't really demonstrated enough of what's going to be lost here.
Yeah, and you can't rule out expectations of your audience when you're making a movie like this. You know, you did the first two so close to each other, and now you're waiting 20 years or whatever it is, or 15 years, whatever it ended up being. The audience is going to bring stuff to this movie, whether you like it or not, and you have to be aware of that. And they're not. And almost it's like there should be two movies, maybe one they did 10 years earlier, and then this one to really allow Connie's character to see that, so people can't bring that to this, to develop Andy Garcia's character. They just needed more time, and I think they could have made two more epic movies that would have been really, really good if they had taken their time and really thought it out. But instead they just rushed through it, and it's, again, very good, just not it just happens to be in the family of two of the greatest movies ever made. And that's
Did you hear what the original plan was?
I'm sure I did at one point, but refresh my memory.
It was going to be essentially another Godfather 2, only this time it's Garcia and Leonardo DiCaprio plays young James Caan.
Huh.
And cutting between the two of them.
That wouldn't have been a bad idea, because now you're taking that rushed element out of it. Now you can really spend time. All of a sudden, you're developing. That's what they should have done. Jesus Christ.
I'm all for that. I had no idea.
Yeah, that was the initial. That was in the planning. Then it just never came to be.
Shit.
If this is going to be about, Michael losing his daughter or Michael losing the women in his life, which is a big element of this, that should be the focus of the plot then. And the whole, the whole Vatican thing is just unnecessary. You could just have him being Michael Corleone and doing the things that Michael Corleone would be doing at this time, and him raising up Garcia's character and dealing with his sister and what she's doing, while also just going on with business and the business of the families and so on, but also weaving these elements of Kay and his past, the woman who died in Sicily, and now his daughter, and how those women affect him, and the things that reflect everything that Michael Corleone has had to give up to be who Michael Corleone is. That's the plot. Lose the whole Vatican thing. Get rid of it. Create a whole element that reflect what is being lost here, and what has been lost over these two movies is his decency, his humanity, that are reflected in the women in his life. That's a much better plot. I know it's a little more esoteric as a plot, but it's a much better plot. And then you have the Joey Zaza character, and you could use him as the flashier villain of this group, who creates much more of a danger to everyone.
Yeah, but you need a couple other bad guys at work. I mean, I don't know. We could sit and remake this movie all day long. Just the key word is rushed. I think you nailed it when you said that. And I'm from now on, I'm still probably going to stop at Godfather Part 2. I may watch this again sometime. I liked it. It just, when you watch them all together, it definitely feels on a different level. More of a 1990 level, unfortunately. What else came out in 1990? Alice.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch this one.
Yeah, I didn't really want to either. I just didn't want to bring anything to it. What about Green Card?
I only remember the commercials from when I was a kid. My mom desperately wanted to see this movie. She thought Gerard Depardieu was really hot, which I've never understood. Not that I'm not calling the man ugly. I don't see him as necessarily being incredibly handsome. I think it's the accent. I think anybody with that accent maybe is just super handsome, probably.
Yeah, you need to watch the movie 1900. He's in it with Robert De Niro, and he's fully frontal.
He hangs brain.
It's an awkward scene. Just Google 1900.
I'm going to show my dick in this movie, right? I'm going to show.
You want to see all knuckle?
Yeah, it's basically him and De Niro are. There's a girl in between him and De Niro, and she's going skiing. So, it's weird to see that in a movie with actors that you know.
Yeah. In Card, he goes to New York. In that movie, he goes to Paris.
Anyway, that is our show. We will play some flick chart here in a bit. Before we go that, I want to remind everybody to head over to patreon.com/criticspod to help support the podcast, get yourself a credit on the show. And here's some of our bonus episodes. The Thanksgiving episode's still out there. And then there will be the I Spit on Your Graves. You'll get to hear that before everybody else. And you'll be the only ones to see the video version of that, if I can figure out how to do the video version on Patreon only. And then TeePublic page at ihatecritics.net/ I don't know what the slash is, but go ahead and click on the TeePublic link in the right-hand corner of ihatecritics.net and get yourself this Batman versus Jesus shirt, specifically for Christmas. And other merch that we got there. I'll keep trying to wear some.
Designs by Cousin Jeff.
Yep, as is this mug, which is not on our... I have a light blocking it, but this is a Hereditary mug that he designed on his own personal...
Oh, that's sick.
TeePublic. Yeah, he's
great.
He does some great work. I wish I had unlimited funds, so I'd buy a lot more. He's got... I mean... Obviously, this stuff I've never saw Golden Girls, but he's got a ton of Golden Girls stuff on there. He's got a bunch of good
rocking the ladies right now.
You like Golden Girls? He's got a lot of Golden Girl merch that he's some really cool artwork, some original stuff. Any horror movie, if you're into horror movies, he's got it all there. Really cool, really neat stuff. So check him out on TeePublic as well. Jeff Lasseter is his name. I don't know what he calls it on TeePublic, but. Anyway, do you guys want to play Flick Chart?
Yes.
Sure.
Where are you, Flick Chart? Probably here. Let's see.
Oh no, my Zoom just glitched out.
All right.
It's still on here.
Yeah, I'm here. It's just minimized like a mofo, and I can't get it to go back up. Blow up! All right, it's gonna be a small little screen.
I've had that problem too sometimes. I've never seen this before. Your Eyes Only or Full Metal Jacket?
Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket.
Agreed. I'm assuming. Again, For Your Eyes. Oh fuck! I hit the wrong button. Haven't seen Full Metal Jacket. That was a mistake. Clue or Arachnophobia?
Clue for me.
Oh, 100% Clue.
I don't know. I'll just go with you guys. Seabiscuit or The Librarian, The Curse of Judas Chalice. I've never seen
The Librarian.
I haven't seen either of those because...
All right, Sean, you choose Seabiscuit or The Ref.
Seabiscuit.
Brick or Scott Pilgrim versus the World?
Scott Pilgrim.
It's going to be Scott Pilgrim all day.
Yeah, I do like the Brick a little bit, though.
It's a good movie, but yeah.
Argo, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Argo.
I'm going to go Argo.
That's a tough one. I think I'd go Argo too, but Crouching Tiger is probably more artsy, if that makes sense.
I like Crouching Tiger. I like me a wire-walking martial arts movie. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think the sequel kind of screws it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I always forget that happened.
Yeah, good. We feel lucky.
I never saw it. I'm glad I didn't.
Boys in the Hood, 2001: A Space Odyssey.
It's 2001 for me.
Boys in the Hood.
It's 2001. But I'm sure Boys in the Hood's fine. I've never actually seen it. The Island, Dragonheart.
Dragonheart.
I have no horse in this race. I haven't seen either.
I think I've seen Island once a long time ago, but I don't remember.
Island is pretty bad.
That's kind of my memory of it, but I don't remember for sure. Ooh, The Shining or The Thing?
Ooh.
Going to The Shining.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to go Shining.
I'm not going to make a decision because I don't have to. But that's tough for me. I really like The Thing, but I really don't. I'm glad I don't have to make a decision. The Thin Man or The Others?
Have either of you seen The Thin Man?
Nope.
Why don't you skip that one?
The Hills Have Eyes remake or The Others?
The Others.
The Others.
Yeah. John Q, An American Werewolf in London.
What was the first one? I also can't see.
John Q, the Denzel Washington movie. Or
One of the many mediocre movies that Denzel Washington has made over the years. Werewolf is more memorable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta agree with him. I don't know if I've seen the other one.
Evil Dead, Lethal Weapon 4.
Evil Dead.
Yeah, Evil Dead.
Yeah. Well, I will apologize for Lethal Weapon 4 all day long. I like that movie. National Lampoon's European Vacation, On the Waterfront.
On the Waterfront.
I don't think I've seen On the Waterfront, so I'll go with European Vacation, even though that movie's not very good.
I don't mind European Vacation, but On the Waterfronts.
It's better than Vegas, but it's not great.
Cool Runnings, Gone Baby Gone.
Gone Baby Gone.
Cool Runnings.
Gone Baby Gone. Taxi Driver, The Last Samurai.
Taxi Driver.
Yeah, Taxi Driver.
Agreed. Eraser, The Island.
Eraser.
I got nothing.
I don't care. Spider-Man 2, 2004, or Silver Streak.
Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2.
Perfect internet title right now. Don't fall apart on this. For the viewers at home to get to see this. Dumb and Dumber, Constantine.
Ooh.
Dumb and Dumber.
I'm going to go Dumb and Dumber, but I do have a special place in my heart for that Constantine movie.
Kind of. It's gotten better for me over the years.
It's as it ages, it's gotten more watchable. When it first came out, I hated it. But now I'm like, I want to see more of this.
Yeah. Highlander, Carrie, the remake.
Jesus. What a brutal choice. Carrie.
I'm going to go Highlander.
Garbage.
Because if I have to choose between stubbing my toe and getting a splinter, I'm going to go with stubbing my toe.
I'm just because the original Carrie is so good. I'm just gonna take the remake. Splash, Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead.
Not a huge fan of Day of the Dead. Like
Me
the other
either.
two, but Splash is kind of boring. I have a kid walking in the room. I apologize. I'm live on YouTube, so don't come over here. He's going to shoot me with a Nerf gun in a second. It's going to hit me right in the side of the head. Fucking asshole. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, RoboCop 2.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I'm going RoboCop 2.
I'm going Hitchhiker's Guide. Pee-wee's Big Adventure, The Blair Witch Project.
Blair Witch.
Pee-wee.
I'll go Blair Witch. That'd be kind of a good combination of two movies.
Large Marge was scary as fuck when I was a kid.
Deadpool 2, The People versus Larry Flint.
Deadpool 2.
Deadpool 2.
I feel like I'm supposed to say The People versus Larry Flint, but I'll go Deadpool 2 as well.
Larry Flint's a great movie, but I really enjoy Deadpool 2.
And here's two movies I don't really like. 7 Pounds and Gangs of New York.
Gangs of New York for me.
Yeah. Gangs in New York.
A Few Good Men, Hitch.
Few Good Men.
I don't know. I'll go Few Good Men. I don't want to shake things up too much.
Don't want to screw up our algorithm.
Yeah. Kevin James. He knows what he did.
Oh.
is Never Say Never Again.
Heathers.
I agree.
I haven't seen either of these. I get shit for not seeing Heathers like at least once a week from Tina. So I really get on that.
I feel like Heathers is kind of a Generation X movie. Sometimes the next generation down doesn't appreciate it the same, but sometimes they do, I guess. I'm curious your thoughts.
I've not seen Wild Target.
All right, next is Under Siege or Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
God damn it.
That's kind of what Sean feels like when he has to watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Feel Under Siege. I think Under Siege is more watchable.
I mean, just for the cake scene alone.
Oh, man. I'll go Planes, Trains, and Automobiles just to piss off Sean. So I can't really pick between these two.
I'll go Under Siege, but I think we should end it there, though, with that's a good combination
Fair
of the
enough.
two.
All right.
Thank you, Zach, for joining us.
Hey, anytime.
Yeah, and if you remember your favorite movie from this year, and we already know your favorite movie from 1990, so...
Oh, yeah. I gotta do some thinking, because like I said, it's been mostly like a TV heavy year for me.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched a lot of TV, so it's like movies. Not too many of them have risen to the top. I mean, not too many have come out. I know I haven't really talked about it on here, but I did end up watching The King of Staten Island. I did enjoy that a lot more than I thought I would, but I don't know, man. This is gonna be a hard pick. Like, honestly, I might just fuck around and say the Death of Dick Long, because I've talked about that movie the most, probably. I don't know. But
have you seen the Andy Samberg movie on Hulu?
Not yet.
I bet you watch that one. I bet you that one's right up there for you.
Because that's the one where it's basically Groundhog Day at a music festival, right?
A wedding.
Something like that.
A wedding. Yeah, but
a wedding.
I think you'll like it, though.
I'm down for that. I like that trope a lot. Like it pops up in a lot of TV shows that I watch. I'm for it. So maybe I'll tell her we need to watch that later today.
And they do a good job of making you forget about the trope.
Okay.
Anything else before we end the show or let you guys go?
I forgot to talk about Soul, which is out this week, and it's really good. It's on Disney Plus, and people should definitely see it. I really enjoyed it a lot.
It's so good. I didn't have that Pixar cry face moment, but there's a lot of emotional stuff in that movie. It's still a good time. Like I urge everyone to check it out if they have Disney Plus.
Well,
also, Mandalorian,
yeah, whatever.
Dog. Okay. I've watched the last episode. I think I'm up to 7 times now. It is crack. It is religion. It is.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
I know everyone's probably had it spoiled, but I won't say it. But oh my god.
Well, I did see a meme where like J.J. Abrams was complaining. It obviously probably wasn't real, but he said something along the lines of it's hard to satisfy the original audience while bringing in the younger audience. And then there's like at the bottom is Jon Favreau going to hold my beer kind of thing.
Yep.
But
Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni saved that.
Yeah. But yeah, maybe next week is going to be the best of 2020 and 1990. Maybe we can add Soul to it since I didn't see it. I didn't even know it was out. So it sounds like we probably should talk a little bit about that movie. So we'll put that in the show as well. Yeah. Otherwise, we'll see you all next week.